Hello everybody, today we're going to be reacting to Asian stories, and this is a channel who's trying to beat his stories. Let's say that at Asian Mighty Stories. Feel like these both are the same, the creators are the same, so let's react to all of his 9 shorts.
My dog wouldn't stop barking at me over and over. I looked at his food bowl empty. You hungry? I filled it. He didn't even look. He just kept barking. That wasn't normal. Every morning before I left for school, Milo waited by the front door. I scratched behind his ears, give him a treat, then he'd watch me leave. He never barked, never tried to stop me until today. He stepped in front of the door, barking. Then he grabbed my sleeve and started pulling. You need to go outside? I reached for his leash. He ignored it. So I opened the back door. Usually he'd sprint into the yard. This time he didn't move. He just looked at me, then barked again. What do you want? I grabbed his favorite tennis ball, the one
200 IQ, this dog is sensing danger.
he never ignored. I tossed it, it rolled right past him. He didn't even look. Instead, he ran down the hallway, stopped outside my mom's bedroom, and barked again.
200 IQ, mom is dead, and the dog's trying to help.
Side. My mom always sleeps in. Leave her alone. He barked louder. I walked over. Milo, keep this up and you're not getting treats. But he didn't care. He started scratching at our bedroom door hard. I never seen him do that before, so I grabbed his collar and pulled him away. He fought against me harder than he ever had before. The second I let go, he sprinted right back, scratching even harder. He ignored everything. His favorite toy, his favorite treat, nothing mattered except getting me to open that door. Something was wrong. So I opened it. My mom was exactly what she'd always be, still asleep. I smiled. See, I started closing the door, then I froze. The room was silent, too silent. My mom always snored every morning. Mom? No answer. I stepped closer. Her hand hung over the side of the bed. I picked it up, cold. My heart started racing. I shook her shoulder.
200 IQ, what the fuck did I say?
Mom? Nothing. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The ambulance arrived minutes later. The doctors rushed her inside. I sat in the waiting room holding Milo's leash, both of us praying she'd be okay. Hours later, a doctor walked out. If she'd got in here even 1 minute later, we couldn't have saved her. I looked down at Milo. He looked back at me, tail wagging. I reached into my pocket and pulled out his favorite treat, the same one he ignored that morning. This time, he took it. I smiled. You deserve the whole bag. My dog
W Milo.
A group from the biggest dojo in town walked through our doors. Their master looked around and laughed. 3 people using an entire dojo? You're wasting this place. My dad lowered his head. He was ready to leave. Before he could, I stepped forward. Then fight for it. The room went silent. Their master smiled. 1 match. Your best student against mine. No weapons, no interference. Next week. My dad grabbed my shoulder. What are you doing? You've never even sparred. He wasn't wrong. Every morning my dad called me outside. Time to train. But training never lasted long. My little sister always waited beside us. She dreamed of learning too, but she couldn't. She was born with an immune disease, so instead, my dad taught us something else. Again, we breathed in, slowly, then out again. He'd always say, when your breathing stays calm, your mind does too. Some days, my sister could barely finish, so I counted every breath with her, so she wouldn't have to do it alone. After that, I prepared her medicine, cooked her meals, then climbed the mountain behind our village, carrying 2 heavy buckets. At the very top was the only spring with water clean enough for her treatments. Every day, I carried those buckets home, then woke up and did it again. For 7 days, my dad taught me how to fight. Then, the day of the duel arrived. The best student stepped forward. He was twice my size. We bowed, then he attacked. Fast, powerful. Every punch, every kick missed by inches. I never swung back. I just moved again and again. The crowd started whispering, then laughing. His confidence started disappearing. Technique became frustration. Frustration became anger. His punches got wider. His kicks got slower. His breathing turned into gasps. Mine never changed. I could still hear my dad. When your breathing stays calm, your mind does too. Finally, he screamed, "Stop running!" That's when one of his teammates threw him a sword. The crowd gasped. He'd broken the rules. I looked toward the master, waiting for him to stop the match. He didn't. Then I heard another voice, "Catch!" I turned. My sister was standing, holding that old wooden practice sword. She smiled and tossed it to me. My dad always said, a sword doesn't beat another sword. The person holding it does. He charged. 1 step, 1 strike. His blade split in half. Silence. I looked at my dad, then at my sister. I raised my fist and got 2 in return. A group from the
Damn, W. This guy, I think, might beat his fighting stories.
He spat out the dumpling. Everyone in the restaurant went silent because this wasn't just anyone. He was the world's most famous competitive eater. And after 1 bite, he looked at my mom and said, "This is the worst dumpling I've ever had." My mom didn't say anything because deep down, she knew her restaurant was already struggling. Some days we didn't even sell 10 dumplings. But what he didn't know was that this restaurant was the last thing my dad left us. My parents opened this place together. They spent years building it. Every table, every recipe, every corner of the restaurant held a memory of him. But after my dad dad passed away, my mom kept it running alone. Even when business slowed down, even when it got harder every year, she refused to let go. Then the competitive eater stood up. Before leaving, he pointed at the biggest dumpling on the menu. I'll make you a deal. If someone here can finish that, I'll tell my followers this is the best dumpling shop I've ever been to. But if they fail, you close this place. My mom immediately refused. We're not risking our restaurant. He smirked. I figured, then turned toward the door. Wait, I'll do it. My mom grabbed my arm. You've never done anything like this. I looked at the
I
empty
saw it,
tables.
that's why I'm
then
not
at her.
excited.
If I don't, we lose anyway.
When I
She
first
closed
saw
her
this, I
eyes
was
and then
excited.
quietly nodded. A giant bamboo steamer was placed in front of me. Inside was one massive dumpling. The timer started 60 minutes. The first few bites were easy. Then my stomach started fighting back. Every bite was harder than the last. Halfway through, the competitive eater leaned back, smiling. I knew it, but I kept eating. One bite, then another. Soon, only a quarter remained. His smile disappeared. He stood up, walked over, and accidentally knocked my water onto the dumpling. It soaked
Accidentally, didn't mean it.
straight through,
He
making
meant it,
every
the guy who
bite
threw it
twice
meant
as
it.
heavy. He shrugged. Oops. My mom reached for the plate. That's enough. Not yet. 5 minutes, 3 bites. 1 minute, 1 bite. The timer started beeping. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I swallowed the final bite. The competitive eater stared at the empty plate, then laughed. Fake. You switched the dumpling. There's no way a kid finished that. Then he stormed out the front door. His cameraman never moved. He looked down at his camera, then said, I got everything. That night, he uploaded the footage, the cheating, the excuses, everything. By the next morning, millions of people had watched a famous competitive eater lose, then blame a kid for cheating. A week later, people lined up around the block. My mom looked out the window. Do you think they're here for the challenge? I looked at the customers walking out, carrying boxes of dumplings. They came for the challenge. They'll come back for your dumplings. He spat out the dumpling.
CW.
He handed me a black envelope. Inside was enough money that my mom would never have to work again. He said, one job, that's all. I looked down at the envelope, then I remembered every night I ate cup ramen alone. My mom wouldn't get home until after midnight. She worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. A year earlier, my dad stood at our front door. He looked at my mom, then at me, and said, I'm going to fix this. Then he left. A year passed, still no calls, no letters, nothing. One afternoon, everyone at school was opening the new Pokemon packs. I asked my mom if I could have one too. She smiled. We'll see. The next morning, one was waiting on my desk. I ran downstairs to thank her, but she was already gone. I opened the fridge. There was almost nothing inside. That's when I realized she skipped groceries so I could fit in. That day, I decided I'd make enough money so she'd never have to work again. That night, 5 of us drove through an empty street.
Must be like billions or
One of
something.
them pulled out a zip tie, then pointed at me. Tie his hands. I frowned. Whose? Yours. Before I could react, they grabbed me. That's when I realized I wasn't part of the mission. I was the mission. Before anyone could move, gunshots echoed through the street. The man beside me dropped. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, I was the only one left. Heavy footsteps echoed toward me. A man stepped out of the darkness, his face hidden. He cut the zip ties off my wrists, and the black envelope fell from my pocket. His shoulders dropped. They gave you one too. I stared at him. How do you know what this is? He slowly pulled down his mask. Dad? He closed his eyes. I was supposed to come home tomorrow. Then headlights appeared at the end of the street. He glanced behind me. They found us. He pulled a pistol from his jacket, checked the magazine, then looked back at me. They gave me the same envelope. I left so I could make enough money for our family. When I finished, I told them I was done. They smiled. I thought they were letting me leave. The next morning, I found out they'd recruited a new kid. His voice began to shake. Then I saw your name. My heart stopped. You were never the new recruit. You were my hostage. They knew I'd never leave if they had you. So before they could bring you to me, I found them first. Car doors started slamming shut, one after another. He tore the envelope in half. Go! What about you? He looked at me. I left so you and your mom could have a better life. I'm not letting them take that away. He pushed me toward the alley. I turned
That dad is goated.
back. Dad! He smiled, then raised his pistol. A week later, someone knocked on our front door. My mom opened it and couldn't move. She thought she was seeing a ghost. My dad had finally come home. That night, for the first time in over a year, the 3 of us ate dinner together. He handed me a black envelope. Inside,
Not W guy.
every Tuesday, my math tutor waited outside my school. He was always there 5 minutes early. Rain, snow, it didn't matter. Every lesson ended the same way. He'd pat me on the shoulder and say, I'm proud of you. I always thought that was a strange thing for a math tutor to say. Whenever I got a question right, he smiled, like he'd won something. And when I got one wrong, he never got frustrated. He'd just say, let's try again. One afternoon, I asked him, why do you care so much? He looked at me for a long time, then said, because I know what you're capable of. He never explained. After every lesson, he stood by the front door of his old rundown house, watching me walk all the way home. Only after I disappeared did he go back inside. I never understood why. Then, one day, halfway through our lesson, I asked, can I use your bathroom? He nodded. Second door on the left. While I was washing my hands, I opened the top cabinet looking for paper towels. But when I went to open it, something fell out. A photograph slipped onto the floor and I picked it up. It was me, maybe 3 years old.
Not. I'm guessing this dad mom divorced his dad or dad divorced his dad being his math tutor to see him. 200 IQ.
sitting on someone's shoulders. I turned it over, and on the back were two words, my son. My heart stopped. I walked back into the living room holding the picture. Why do you have this? The color drained from his face. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he quietly said, I always wondered how long it would take. I stared at him. What are you talking about? He pulled out a chair and slowly sat down. I wasn't always your math tutor. I'm your father. I couldn't speak. He looked at the photograph. The accident took your memories. The doctor said the surgery would cost more than I could ever afford. The only family who could save you wanted to adopt you. So I signed the papers because losing you was better than burying you. I felt my eyes fill with tears. Then why didn't you tell me? He looked away. You finally had the childhood I always wanted you to have. I couldn't take that away. So instead, I settled for being your math tutor. That's when I realized every Tuesday he wasn't teaching me algebra. He was spending the only hour each week he got to be my dad. And every time he said, I'm proud of you, he wasn't talking to a student. He was talking to his son. Every Tuesday, my math tutor waited outside. My dad stood up in the middle of
I was wrong.
the audience and walked out. I never seen him leave a competition before. My brother never showed up. Nobody knew why, not even me. Every time my brother missed a note, my dad would stop him and say again. Sometimes he'd spend 20 minutes playing the same 10 seconds over and over. Then, the moment he finally got it right, my dad would smile. That's my son. Every competition, my parents sat in the front row. Every trophy went into the cabinet above our fireplace. Sometimes I'd stand there imagining one with my name on it. I wanted to learn piano too, not because I loved music, because I wanted my parents to look at me the way they looked at him. Then one afternoon, a second piano arrived. I couldn't stop smiling. I thought, finally, this one's for me. But my dad never called me downstairs. Days turned into weeks. The piano stayed untouched, except by my brother. Every afternoon, he practiced 4 hours without missing a day. Whenever I walked toward the piano, he'd stop me. Dad said, I'm practicing. Then he'd close the door. Eventually, I stopped asking. Until years later, I finally asked my mom, why didn't dad ever teach me? She looked down, then quietly said, the day the second piano arrived, your dad told your brother, now both my boys can become pianists. Your brother looked at him and said, if he has to practice, I'm done. Your dad laughed. He thought your brother was bluffing. He wasn't. He skipped the biggest competition of his life. Then he refused to touch the piano. Days passed, then weeks. Your dad begged him to play again. Your brother only said one thing, you'll have one pianist or none. The next morning, he sat back down and practiced for another 8 years. I looked at my mom, but why? Her eyes filled with tears. He knew exactly what those 4 hours felt like. He wanted you outside, riding your bike, playing with your friends, having the childhood he never had. That's when I looked at the trophy cabinet, and for the first time, I didn't envy it. I understood, but every trophy had really cost. My entire childhood, I thought my brother had everything. I never realized he gave it all up, so I wouldn't
W, brother. W.
have to. My dad stood up in the middle. Every lunch, I opened my mom's homemade dumpling.
Not, guys, I'll make a part 2 after this, so bye.